There we go. So you know what you're giving away tonight?
I do. We are giving away the Mag Light, courtesy of AMSoil. It's pretty amazing, this thing.
Right?
Magnet, light, telescopic.
Okay.
Great little.
What's it worth? What are you doing on what's it worth?
I'm giving away stickers.
Oh yeah, Webley's just went out today, and Grips just went out today to Tim Whitehouse, and yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff coming up on the show tonight too. I've got some good stuff coming up. I've got this What's It Worth bike, YZ125. I'm really excited about that. Paul Griffin sent in a beautiful Mako. We've got this really cool segment Jeff Kokoski put together. I love it. It's on a Yamaha Moto bike. I'm really looking forward. Yeah. You know, the ever heard of and stuff like that?
Usually
well, he's branching out a little bit.
I see that.
All right. And I got a special guest coming in about a half hour, so I got to get started on doing the show.
I'm Gary Semix, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abbate. Thank you for joining me tonight. As always, the lovely and enchanting Susie is with me. Suze,
Hi.
you know, a lot of people ask me all week, sending me messages, asking me what's happening on the show. But you know what's on top of their mind? How are you doing? How's your leg? Why don't you tell everybody?
My leg is really, really good. It's week 3 today.
Mm-hmm.
And I am doing really great.
Right.
I'm getting around on my scooter. It's a little inconvenient, but no pain.
Excellent. Yeah. We're all happy about that. Sue, if I may, how's my cooking?
Yeah, well, he stepped up. So he made nice chicken last night, and the other night, he made shrimp scampi was to die for.
I'm telling you.
I couldn't have done it better myself.
Thank you so much for sharing that with everyone. It's a good thing I don't have any kids to pick up at soccer, because I'll tell you, I'm using the washing machine, the stove, using things and touching things. Yeah. I've just never imagined. Hey, if you'd like to help support the show, you can follow the link in the show description. There is a PayPal link. Click on the link, make a donation in any amount, $2, $5, $10. A couple of guys sent me $100 a few weeks ago. I'm really grateful in any way, shape, or form. Anything you can do to help us here grow the show at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank our sponsors, Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro Vinco, Sirius Studios, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com, Preston Petty Products Full Circle, and of course, AMSoil. My dear friends at Trail Rider, Kirk Flash. I got a copy of, not a copy, I actually got a subscription to Trail Rider, and I'm enjoying that very much. Steve Bauer, Big Heart, doing all he can there, helping the kids at the Big Air Kids Fair 2025. Check them out online. Roger Neff at the Brap Shop. We'll have a video from Roger Neff a little bit later on. And, of course, my brother in Christ, Steve Wise. Moto Fellowship every Tuesday night at 5:30. The boots on the ground, the guys that are sharing the show, they're out there. Al Keith, Karl Word, Alan Huey, Tom Miller, and the rest have all bought shirts, and they're all out there sharing the show every week. Alan Huey, you just ordered another shirt from me. In fact, I think you ordered this, the new logo from Kurt Evan. All right? Boy, I'll tell you. Did he really hit the mark on this one? Look at those teeth in my eyes. If that isn't just a mirror image, I don't know what is. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Keep sharing the show, and we will get you a set of grips, compliments of Paul Stannard and Preston Petty products. I am wearing the Preston Petty shirt tonight. It's a nice one that Paul sent me a while back. Thank you, Paul Stannard, and Patty Stannard too. Fortuna Sausage Company, not a sponsor of the show, but some wonderful food there at Fortuna Sausage. The Next Time Trade this segment is brought to you by Vinco. We've got a little tip this week on an old tool from the old school from Roy Vanderveer. Check this out.
You're here, and I'm back at you this week for a new edition of Next Time Try This. Although, actually, you can't try this, but I want to show you one of my favorite tools. And it's something I got a long time ago from Vic Krause at Sidewinder Racing, Sidewinder Sprockets. And this is called the Judge. And you put the Judge on your chain, and the Judge tells you whether or not your chain is worn out or not. The way it works is there are 3 different levels at this end of the tool. You plug it into the chain, and if it goes to the first notch, the chain is brand new. If it goes to the second notch, the chain is 50% worn. If it goes to the third notch, like this, the chain is 100% shot. This chain is 90% of the way towards worn out. We've got 1 or 2 more rides left in this. And this is a chain and sprocket set that we looked at in a recent episode of Next Time Try This, in which the chain is not running centered on the sprocket. And we've squared everything up to make it straight, but because everything is worn in, it's still riding hard on the right side of the sprocket. And so this is a tool that was discontinued a long time ago. If there's a strong response and a lot of people want it, I can get some of these 3D printed and make some available. So if this is something you'd like to have, just leave a note in the comments and we'll take a look at that. And then for those of us that don't have the Judge, the other way we can check a chain to see if it's worn out is to grab it at the back. And if you can see more than about half of a sprocket tooth, picking the chain up off the sprocket, you know your chain is shot. And this is an O-ring chain. They last a long time, and they don't show the wear quite as obviously as standard chains do. But as we already know, this chain's just about shot, and we'll be putting a new one on soon. That's it for this week.
Roy Vanderveer. It's a really, really good little segment there. And you brought up a name, Vic Krause. You know, I saw Vic Krause at the International Motocross Museum fundraiser, the first one, a couple of years ago. And we talked about doing an interview, and we just hadn't been able to kind of catch up at the right time. But I'm going to make a really, really strong effort to get a hold of Vic and definitely get him on the show. I'm sure he has some wonderful, wonderful things to share with us. That segment is brought to you by Vinco. Be sure to visit them online at vinco.com. And don't forget, when you spend over $200, you'll get free shipping at Vinco. Thank you, Fred Hudgens at Derf Cycle. And, of course, my dear friend Russell Waters at AMSOIL. Be sure to visit Russell Waters, or actually go to www.theoilpeopleshopamsoil.com. That's theoilpeople.shopamsoil.com. There's still some specials going on there. And if you need anything in particular, get a hold of me and I will let Russell know about it. Maybe you want to become a dealer for AMSOIL. I know my old friend Gordon McCaffer has done that, and a few other people out there as well. So if you want to become a dealer for AMSOIL, let me know. What else did we mention here? AMSOIL, Derf, the What's It Worth segment. We were talking about this just a moment ago. This, of course, is brought to you by Full Circle Racing, our friend Russell Waters. Dual sport, on-road, off-road, vintage, street bikes, you name it. If it's got spokes, nipples, and hoops, if it needs to be laced and trued, get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. And this is the segment of the show where we give away a nice sticker like this. Susie mentioned that a little bit earlier. We'll send you 2 of them. Whoever guesses the price of the bike I'm about to show you, closest without going over, will get a couple of stickers, compliments of Susie and Vintage Motocross Q&A. This bike comes to us from the Mecum Motorcycle Auction, and this just went off on March 19th. This is a 1977 Yamaha YZ125. Kind of a new bike from Yamaha. The previous year was the 76 YZ125C. First year mono, but it had an aluminum tank, a little bit of a different, well, it had a completely different frame, a different swing arm. The forks were different. Pretty much everything was different, but I can tell you this, that the bottom end is the same. The wheels will fit, but that is basically about it between the YZ125C and this beautiful 77 YZ125D. According to the highlights, it says it was a comprehensive nut and bolt restoration by Jim Martin of Phoenix Restoration. It's a 125cc two-stroke single-cylinder engine. Not to nitpick, I'm just bringing out the finer points. I think the sprocket is a little over-polished, as well as there aren't any tabs on those nuts right there. Just saying, if you're out looking for one, make sure it has those items. It's got a 6-speed manual transmission. It's got a yellow tank with a black and white stripe on it, matching side panels and fenders. Looks like the hardware was done on this bike. I think the hubs are powder coated. They're looking a little too shiny for my liking, but that's just for my liking. The wheels appear to be slightly over polished. I do believe they are clear anodized, but they aren't as silvery or maybe as frosty as we remember. Here's another good shot. It's got the right grips on the bike. It's got the right bars, and it does have the right cables as well. Black frame, engine and gearbox, telescopic front forks with gaiters. I don't know why they say the bike has disc brakes. It does not. It's got polished spokes and wheels, and you probably can't see it in this picture, but I can. These are Buchanan spokes. I can see the little B on the flange when I blow up the picture and take a look at it on my computer. Just saying, it's got Buchanan spokes on it. Black high mount exhaust. Yes, of course, it does. There it is in the picture. I like the color of the engine on this bike. I like the color, the shade of black, rather, on the pipe as well. So now comes the moment. Took a look at the bike. You saw it all. I gave you the details of it. How much do you think this bike actually sold for? Full restoration, $4,500, $5,500, $7,000. This bike actually sold at the auction for $7,150. That's $7,150. And that comes to us. Do I have that down here? I like to always give Bill Masho, great guy, give him a little plug every week. He kind of keeps things in order over at the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. I want to thank Bill Masho for constantly bringing new content to that page and giving us a little content here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Susie?
John Nostro.
Don Nostro.
John.
John Nostro. I know John Nostro.
Yeah.
All right, here's what we're going to do, John.
7,000.
7,000. All right, John Nostro.
Yeah.
John, send me your mailing address on my private, on my personal page, Joe Abbate. Don't send it here. I don't always check everything here every day. To my personal page, send me your mailing address. I will get you 2 stickers just like this that Susie makes down in the basement.
We don't have a basement.
That's right. I forgot we don't have a basement. Susie makes them in a nice little room in our house where she's got all of her printing equipment for, you know what? She got shirts, hats, aprons, T-shirts, hoodies. She makes everything down there. All right. And that brings us to the next segment of the show. And I think it's a commercial, actually. Yeah, it's a full circle commercial. So you know what? We're going to take a little break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Full Circle. And I think it's Jerry Maddox that brings us this exciting commercial every week. Is that true, Jerry Maddox? Full Circle. Here it comes. And we got a special guest coming up in just a little while, too, when we go do our MX history segment. 1979, the Marty Tripes bike that was claimed. You'll see that in just a little while.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Thank you, Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. You've been a sponsor of our show for 4 or 5 years now. And we've appreciated all you've done for us, including rebuilding and refinishing some rims for us as well. Because our guest is going to be joining us in a little while, I'm going to shuffle things around a little bit tonight. I'm going to get on to a little something else, mix it up just a little bit, but I'll make sure I cover all of the bases on our show. The Moto Showcase. Moto Showcase is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Thank you, Paul Standard, for your years of support, for the shirt, for fenders, for so many things that you've been so generous with here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Tonight's bike Moto Showcase comes to us from Paul Griffin. That's Mako Paul Griffin. It's a great story. It's a 1976, Joe. Okay, let's see what it says here. I purchased this bike from Gary Quartz, the owner of SoCal Mako. He told me it was a bike that had virtually 1 hour maybe, but the owner had sitting it by a heater in a room, and its entire life it did. Wait a minute. Whoa. Let me slow down here. It virtually 1 hour maybe, but the owner had it sitting by a heater for its entire life, discoloring the frame a bit and destroying the plastic. Okay, now I get you. I was skeptical, as always, when I hear from Makos that are NOS, so Gary and I inspected the engine just to judge for ourselves, much to our disbelief. The oil inside was golden, and that the clutch came apart like butter. Every plate was mint. Crank seals were perfect, but they were replaced. We replaced them anyway, as the whole engine was cherry. It was a good sign when I simply took off the wheels and noticed the brake shoes had zero wear and zero dirt on them, front and rear. The slide in the bin carb didn't even whisker a scuff. The front and rear Methler tires were still mounted on the Mako factory rims, with no evidence of a single tire mark on the shoulderless Ackermans. The chrome on the spokes, fork tubes, and on the Girling shocks, shafts, even the AW handlebars, all meant from 76. Everything was meticulously replated and put back together. I luckily already had the rare original Falk plastic green 250 class number plates and the opaque M. Robert fenders to top it all off, most USA. You know, I got a question here too. I'm going to ask it in a second after I get done here. Anyway, there's that Falk fender. Mako dealerships imported the big bore MC440 and MC400, according to Barry Hudgens, who ran the largest Mako dealership imported in the U.S. in 1976. Barry also told me that he was the rep for Mako in the East at the time and had the pulse on what the other dealers were importing into the West. Not many 250s came, but everyone wanted the open class models like crazy. So you got yourself a pretty rare bike there, Paul. It's really wonderful that you shared it with us. The tank is absolutely beautiful on this bike. And wow, the McGregor grips, the controls, I mean, even the kill button, everything about this bike is just absolutely perfect. Now, I have a little video we're going to run here too. But before I do that, I want to ask, here's what I want to ask. M. Robert and Falk. Who was M. Robert? And this is not a trivia thing. I mean, this is just something that I want to know for myself. What's with the Falk name and the M. Robert? Was M. Robert the guy who was a desert rider too? I have to ask these questions now. It's like falling behind in school because you don't want to be the dumb kid in the class who raises his hand and says, I don't understand. Here I am, 50 years in motocross, and honestly, I never really took the time to learn about Falk or Falk, maybe it's called. Or M. Robert. If somebody would like to put into the comment section what Falk or M. Robert represented, who they were, where they were made, I'm sure everybody would like to know more about that. All right. I do have a video for you that Paul Griffin sent in, and I'd like to show you that as well right now. There's no audio to it, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. And Paul did take the time to send it in. And all I have to do is find it. It's that simple. There it is. on the Falk M. Robert thing. Suze, you're on full screen, bed. What's happening?
Paul Griffith and Alan Wise says M. Robert was a plastic and apparel company in Italy,
Okay.
and Falk was a plastic company in Germany.
And both of them supplied plastics for Mako. Anybody else?
Well, Alan Wise says Falk was a West German plastic company, and Robert was an Italian clothing company.
Ah, okay. So we got that going first.
There you go.
All right. We're going to run a commercial that I forgot to run a little bit earlier, but it doesn't matter. And then we will be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, then.
I'm Don Kadowski, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't go anywhere.
Vinco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vinco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vinco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vinco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vinco has to offer to help you get back on track and keep that ride going.
Be sure to visit Vinco.com. They got like 1,000 products in their catalog at this point. You ever heard of a Suzuki RN or RH? I'm sure you've heard of a TM and an RM. Well, I've got a little something special for you that was sent in to us from Dave Boydston. It's an absolutely fabulous little video, and I enjoyed it very much, and I can't wait to show it to you. Dave Boydston, Arizona Motorcycle Savage. Arizona Motorcycle Salvage. I don't think he salvages much anymore, but he does have a huge inventory, a lot of parts for sale, a lot of bikes, and he just bangs it out of the park every year at the Mecum Motorcycle Auction. Let's see what Dave sent in this week.
So this is a standout bike for Barry right here. This RH RN370. See, I screwed it up right from the beginning. 73. This has a whole lot of real works parts like your fork sliders, your cylinder, your head, your piston, your pipe, your air box, and the gas tank was made by Jesse James of West Coast Choppers. Believe that. Took in original tank and Jesse popped that thing right out. That's a secret in the vintage world, huh? So this is a 370 motor all cut up and made to look like a piston port motor. This isn't just stuff you bolt together. Very unusual pieces on this bike and accurate. I remember when he had the titanium pipe here. Picked it up, felt like cardboard. But there's a replica of it that we made. Frame started off as a TM400, I believe, and then just cut it all up and made it look exactly like the works bike.
There you have it. From Dave Boydston. I think that bike belongs to Barry McBride, if I'm not mistaken, from Arizona. I don't know for sure, but I think it does. And I think some of those parts came from Terry Good from the International Motocross Museum. I want to thank Dave Boydston and AMS of Arizona. I'm going to put their logo up here on the show as we're kind of working together with some interesting things going on there at AMS and bringing us some. My guest has arrived. Bringing us some interesting stuff there from Dave Boydston and AMS. Now, I'm going to bring in my guest, and then we're going to do the segment that I promised, and then we're going to get back to the Jeff Kokoski segment as well. But we're going to mix it up a little bit right now. We're going to get to this week in motocross history. I want to welcome my guest, who is the present owner of the bike. I want to welcome Terry Good. Terry, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Doing good.
Good. Listen,
hey,
I got
Susie.
Susie on here, and let's see how I can do this now. Well, let's just put you on full screen. Terry, in a moment, I am going to read about the 1979 season, the Marty Tripes bike that was claimed It was a factory Honda that now is in the International Motocross Museum collection. I'm going to ask you just one or two questions. Then I'm going to read about the incident. Then we'll get back to more questions on the bike. Okay?
Sure.
All right. When did you purchase the bike?
I think it was around 2006, so close to 20 years ago.
Oh, you've had the bike that long.
Yeah.
Okay. And what really struck you about the bike when you first saw it? How did you? Well, look, I'm not going to ask you how you found it, where you found it, because we'll be here quite a while, I'm sure. But when you finally did see the bike and it was in front of you, what struck you the most about it?
Well, I knew about the history of it. I remember when it happened.
Okay.
And I was at the following race at Saddleback Park. It was claimed at Hangtown, which was the first national of the year, and then the second national of the year was at Saddleback. And at that time, I lived just down the street from Saddleback.
Okay.
So I knew about the whole deal. And I remember the article in Cycle magazine where they took it over to that's it, where they took it to Al Baker and they tore it apart. And so it was a real big deal at the time. And just going back a couple years earlier, Mickey Boone had tried to claim Bob Hanna's OW27, the water-cooled bike, which is also in the IMM collection, at Redbud, or Buchanan, we called it then, 125 National in 76. And then a guy, a few races later at Delta, Ohio, a guy that I traveled around with at the time, him and his father tried to claim Marty Smith's Type 2 at Delta, Ohio. And I was in on that one. I'm not in on it, but I was there. And so the claiming thing was, it was a big deal. These manufacturers had these factory bikes that they'd spent a lot of money in research and development and building them. They were all handmade and give them to their best riders, and then a guy with 2,500 or 3,500, depending on the CC, could go in there and claim that bike. So it was a big deal. And after the 76 Nationals, it had kind of fallen by the wayside. The Yamahas came out with air-cooled bikes instead of water cooling. Those ended up going to Europe. And so it just went silent. And then all of a sudden, this guy, John Roeder, comes into the picture, and he tries to claim. He actually wanted Hanna's bike. I talked to him.
Is this him right here in the picture? Is this Roeder?
Yes, that's him. That's him. And the bike was in one of those trailers, those semi-trailers in Idaho for 2 or 3 decades, I believe, before this guy from Missouri found the bike.
Right.
And he found the bike. He found Roeder. Roeder worked, I think, for the water department in San Jose or something like that. And this guy found Roeder, and he made, I still have the bike and all that. And he tried to buy it from him. And he did buy it from him, and he bought it under the premise that he would never sell it, and on and on. And so Roeder sold it to him for $5,000.
Oh my gosh! And this was right before you bought it in 2006.
Yes.
For $5,000.
$5,000. And this guy in Missouri.
Yeah. You
so
don't have to. Okay.
Pardon?
I was going to say, I'm not expecting you to say his name or every detail.
No, I won't say his name.
I get it. I get it.
But anyway, this guy from Missouri, he found the bike. He promised Roeder that he would never sell it and that he was a big Honda fan and all that. And a couple weeks after he took delivery of the bike, he told me the whole story and everything. And then he offered it to me for sale.
Right.
And so he threw a number at me, and I was like, well, okay. But I really, I had this plan of the IMM and preserving the history of motocross. So I was real keen on getting it.
Yes.
Simply because of that fact. It was a part of history and everything. And it was, with my background with the claimings and all that. And here one was the only one to this day that was successfully claimed. And so this guy, he offers it to me, and I can't remember how much initially, but then he kind of put it in a bidding war between me and a friend of mine and Greg Prim in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And, Greg Prim's he wants it. He's offering me this. And then, well, okay, I'll give you that. And he really took advantage of the situation, and it turns out that I ended up paying $50,000 for the bike.
Okay.
And this was 2006, before anyone was looking for factory bikes and all of that. So he made he made 10 times what he paid. Right. And then I'm talking to Greg Prim, who's a friend of mine, and he's also a big donor to the IMM. Greg is a big supporter of ours. But Greg and I are friends, and we were talking on the phone one day, and it came up, that topic. And he goes, he never put anything, and he never told me that you were trying to buy it or that I offered him this much. I haven't paid more than 20 grand or something for. And I was like, that son of a gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to say hindsight being 20/20 vision, but in this day and age, with the way things are going and the International Motocross Museum on the rise and getting closer and closer every day, 50,000 today would not. I don't think that bike. You could sell that bike in a minute for $50,000.
Oh yeah, no. It, all this stuff, and I've overpaid for a lot of things, but I've always had this long-term
vision
projection. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm paying money to do this.
Yes.
And so people think, I'm not going to go and spend 15 or 20 million dollars on motorcycles so I can steal your $20. Okay.
I read you loud and clear, Terry. I read I read Facebook too, and I hear a lot of things that people say, and that's generally my answer as well. Here's just a floor plan, and Terry, things are really picking up a bit on the development with the floor plan. You got Mike Secor involved, and so many things are happening. We don't really have enough time tonight to talk all about it, but I did want to get you here just to talk about the Stripes bike and just one interesting bit, and if it maybe triggers your memory a little bit. It turned out at the end of the race, this John Roeder wanted to buy the bike. He had to have a $3,500 certified check on hand. He had it. The AMA referee Butch Lee put together a drawing. All four, or the big four guys, got in there: Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Suzuki. They put four numbers in a hat, and the whoever drew the lowest number and had the $35,000 check would, of course, win the bike. As fate would have it, John Roeder was first to pick, and he picked number one.
Yeah, $3,500. Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry,
$3,500. Right. That's how it went, and it probably wasn't the reason Roeder picked that bike is Stripes was in his
class
heat.
Yeah,
I think it was in his qualifying heat or something like that. The first national, I believe, everybody had to qualify.
Yes,
and then the top 10 of that race wouldn't have to qualify for the, and so on.
Right,
so,
and from what I understand, also is that I could not walk in from the sidelines or any place else with a check for $3,500 and put a claim in. You have to be in that race.
That's correct.
As a rider in order to do that, and Roeder was at that time.
That's exactly how it went down.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's a real significant bike. I look back, maybe I got skunked on that. I think I did. That was pretty low down to, do that. But anyway, I bought the bike and I'm glad I did. And I'm really happy that it'll be on display exactly as I got it. I haven't, all the electrical tape and all that stuff that John R., who was Tripes' mechanic,
yes,
it's all there original, exactly as it was. So to find something like that, that's hard to do. There's not many of them that original, and so that one has some history. It's a big deal, in my opinion, and it will be displayed. We'll do something really nice for the whole thing.
and if somebody really wanted to see a little bit more and hear the story, your book, Legendary Motocross Bikes, is still available, and it's got some beautiful pictures in there, photographs that you've taken yourself.
Yeah.
So there's more information on that, and also at the IMM website, on your Facebook pages. Who's this guy down here in your basement, Terry?
That is Brian Sneathen, and he's a friend of mine. He lives in Lafayette, Indiana.
Right.
Him and another guy named Justin Zink are good friends of mine, and they help me. They've got they restore some of our bikes, to however I want it, and they do an excellent job. They're two really nice guys, and they help out whenever they can. So that Brian Sneathen's a really good guy.
Terry, I want to thank you for taking the time to come in and chat with us about this incredible bike. We're looking forward, of course, to learning more about the IMM. I'm saying that for the show. I generally know as much as you do about the IMM.
Yes, you do.
And we'll talk more about that, a YouTube channel coming up for the IMM, and so much more. Terry Good, thank you once again.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
We'll see you next time.
Okay, good night.
Terry Good, the International Motocross Museum. Hey, Suze, we're going to take a little commercial break. When we get back, you can tell me all about who won the Maglite.
For the view appreciation.
Yeah, I wasn't going to run this. Here, check this out.
This is Scott Burnworth, and you're watching. This is Scott Burnworth, and you're watching Vintage MX. This is Scott Burnworth.
Hi, I'm Debbie Burnworth. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget SoCal Vintage MX Classic Spring coming up.
We'll be right back.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
On, you saw Debbie Burnworth say something about the Spring Classic, SoCal MX Classic. That was an old video, of course. The late Scott Burnworth is in there. I miss him dearly. There still is a Spring Classic coming up, and it happens April 12th at Paris Raceway. It is a 3-round series. You got Brona, Glen Helen coming up after that. So while that video showed an earlier race from a few years back, SoCal MX Classic continues. Susie.
Yeah.
Who, may I ask, is the winner of the amazing Maglite compliments of Russell Waters and Amsoil.
This mag light
Yeah.
goes to Buck Barrett.
Buck Barrett.
That's right. Buck Barrett.
All right. Buck Barrett, here's what you got to do. You got to get me your address, your mailing address, Buck, okay? Do that from my personal page. Go over there and send me a private message with your full name, obviously Buck Barrett, and your mailing address, and we'll get you a Maglite like that, magnetic, extends, does all kinds of things. You could go on the road with that in a magic show. You won't believe it, okay? Compliments of Russell Waters and Amsoil. Now, for you youngsters, the moment you've been waiting for, we've got, Did You Know? The Did You Know segment is brought to you by Jeff Kokoski. And I had to mix it up a little bit tonight because Terry was here and we had to do with a few other things. But did you know? Did you know Yamaha pioneered the very first electrically powered assisted bicycle, or e-bike, back in 1993? Since then, Yamaha has continued to produce their e-bikes in various configurations and has equipped their current top-of-the-line mountain bike with a 500-watt pedal assist motor, Shimano gearing, McGregor disc brakes front and rear, Rocks shock linkage, and Maxxis tires. However, the MSRP of that bicycle is only $700 less than a 2025 YZ125. How about that? But the Yamaha e-bike is not the subject of tonight's segment. Did you know that Yamaha also produced a bicycle 20 years ago, and it was certainly before their first e-bike? Inspired by the BMX, although it was yet to be called that, the craze that hit Southern California after the release of Bruce Brown's epic movie On Any Sunday and the explosion in the popularity of SoCal motocross, the Yamaha Motor Company produced a BMX-style bicycle in 1974. Even its name, Motobike, referenced its motocross roots. What set this bicycle apart from everything else that was available on the market at the time was the Motobike's suspension. It had telescopic front forks, dual rear shocks. Those components looked like they may have been some leftover parts from Yamaha's incredibly successful JT1 and JT2 mini enduros, and that were available a few years earlier. The bike also came with high chrome-plated Stingray-style handlebars that were equipped with a crossbar, even a waffle hand grip. The bike had scaled-down knobby tires and was even equipped with a rear fender loop to support the frame. The competition yellow paint job on the frame and lower forks matched the Yamaha MX line in 74 and the American factory OW bikes. The bike brought out the inner Pierre cars markers in every kid that had one. And we saw that here in this picture. You could certainly feel what that kid's going through if you were a kid back then like I was, and you saw stuff like that. Anyway, in keeping with Yamaha's dirt bike model designation, started in 1974, the Yamaha Motobike was listed as an A model, changing to B in 75 and C for its final production in 1976. Yamaha also made some clever advertising to promote the bike. They sponsored a series called the Yamaha Bicycle Golden Cup Races. There were ages for kids 7 through 16. They competed in this pedal-powered supercross at Shaw Stadium at the University of Santa Clara outside of San Jose. I think there's something with Bob Hanna. Oh, here it is right here with the Bob Hanna picture on it, where we were talking about some clever advertising. They also did bicycle giveaways at select supercross events and even came up with a cartoon comic featuring the adventures of Motobike Mike. Remember that? And his arch rival, Bermhead Bob, riding that bicycle that bore the resemblance of a Schwinn apple crate. Although the sales of the Motobike were successful, the bike had two major flaws. First, the price. The Motobike cost $139 in 1974. Although it doesn't seem like much today, it was roughly twice the price of what you pay for a Schwinn or a Huffy. You could find those at Sears and Kmart. By comparison, 60cc Mini Enduro was just $300. However, if you were 9 or 10 years old and Santa Claus brought you this for Christmas, price wasn't an issue. Not the real problem was the bike's weight. Yeah, the bike did weigh a bit. And I think he had it here. It was 10 pounds heavier than the closest Schwinn that was available. So, and since the bicycle didn't have multi-gear derailleur system, Hild spelled a pedaling nightmare for the motorbike rider, especially if you were a little on the heavy side, if you were a preteen. The neighbor boys might have drooled over it with envy at the sight of your motorbike, but that didn't compare to the amount you sweated climbing up those hills to keep up with the rest of the kids. Until the C model came out in 76, that Yamaha tried to address the weight issue. The B model, released a year earlier, came with a banana-style seat, modified top shock mounting, and provided an anchor point for the new seat brace, which further added to the weight. So, 76 model with a lighter one-piece crank, a fender, a chain guard made of plastic, and the lower forks leg made of aluminum instead of steel. They even had an advertisement in which Bob Hanna sitting on a 175 next to the kid on the Moto bike. But by then, it was the lighter, more purpose-built BMX bikes that were produced by bicycle manufacturers. They were coming out on the market a whole lot quicker and a whole lot less expensive than the Yamaha Moto bike. Yamaha wisely stuck with their core market and discontinued the production of the Moto bike. Today, a properly restored motorbike can fetch upward of several $1,000s, but the memories that it will bring back will last forever. Jeff Kokoski, bringing back the memories, bringing back the nostalgia with the Yamaha Moto bike. It is such, wow, great stuff from Jeff Kokoski. We are going right into, I'll tell you what we're going to go into. We're going to go right into the expansion chamber with Roger Neff, okay? If you've been watching our videos lately with Roger Neff from Brap Suspension, you know he's got to offer some really, really cool stuff. He's got a lot of stuff going on there. On his Instagram page, you'll find a lot of stuff from Roger Neff and Brap Suspension. This week he talks about a bike that has a shock on it that's 20 years old, has never been serviced, and he takes it apart to show you some of the finer things that are happening and how he fixes this particular shock. Roger Neff, Brap Suspension. Let's see
how you guys doing? We're out here in the Brap shop. Got you in the camera at the bench here. We got a little segment we're going to do for Joe Abbate's Vintage Motocross Q&A. Tonight we are working on a 2005 era KTM 525. It has the old PDS shock. One of these bad boys. We're lowering the shock. It should be simple, right? Well, one of the key problems with these shocks is the rebound adjuster. This is the little adjuster that your screwdriver, right? That's where we adjust with the screwdriver. This goes in this clevis here. They're notorious for getting moisture in here, corroding up this part. You can see that tiny little neck. They snap right here. And this threaded piece is over here on the blind side of the clevis, right, where you have no access to it. So this one here came out as all white and corroded. If I wouldn't have been patient, it would have broke. But I took my time. I used a little bit of WD-40. I used a little bit of heat, and I got it out there. It's intact. I was able to polish it up real quick. The next thing is the rebound adjuster rod. The rod goes inside this tube, and that tube goes inside the shock shaft. Well, it was seized right at the very bottom. This little guy goes in here, and it was seized. And the neck of this tube rod is super small diameter underneath this O-ring, and it's actually bent a little bit. I'm not going to try and straighten it. I'm just going to put it back in. This is a 20-year-old motorcycle. I don't know if this shock has ever been serviced. Looking at things, I don't see where anybody else has been in this shock. So I'm going to say for 20 years, this bike's been going boing, boing, boing all over the earth and never been serviced. But we're able to get it apart. He actually had an extra shock he's going to give to me. I'm like, hey, wait, before I accept that shock, we got to make sure this one's okay. And it's his lucky day. We got everything cleaned up. We're going to put it back together. But the point is, when you're working on old stuff, you got to take your time and you got to kind of understand how it works and where the fail points might be. Otherwise, you can just break it. Hard to get these rods. I actually have one left. I've been saving. I probably haven't had it for 15 years. I've got one of these. This one's salvageable, so we're going to keep using it. The bike is just going to be dual sported. So we're not super worried about suspension working, top notch. But we do want to work on adjust his rebound so he can make it go smooth. We're working on all stuff. And if yes, Pistol wouldn't have worked. I would have gone to his extra one. If that one would have been broken, I would have been on the internet searching for a shock. So you guys keep it brappy. We're gonna wrap up his shock. We're gonna look at Volkswagen bugs can go down. You guys keep it brappy, and till next time, enjoy the rest of Joe's show.
I love those segments with Roger Neff. Keep it brappy. And don't forget to visit him over at on his Instagram account. He's got a lot of really good stuff over there with suspension tips and things of that nature. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Hi, I'm Paul Parkinson with Replica Motorcycle Parts. I'm sitting here with our test bike, which is ridden by Jerry Maddox. He carries the #1 plate in the US. Let's go over a couple of the parts that we've got on here. We've got our ignition cover with the case saver built into it, so that when the chain comes off, you're not damaging your cases. Spacer, foot pegs. Jerry runs our air box. Seat brackets, keeps the seat on tight so he doesn't fall off when he's going over the whoops. And then on this side, Jerry runs a couple little things, a lot of little rubber parts on the bike and stuff are all done by us. And then down here we've got our brake pedal, which has got needle bearings in there, and then it's got a wider toe peg, so it gives them a real nice, clean, easy to use brake. And then this is our latest part. This is a CR250 type knuckle. In fact, Honda used them on the last versions of the MR175s, and this is a real trick aluminum Kickstarter arm. So that gives them lightweight, strength, and reliability more than anything else. Reliability.
Paul Parkinson Sr., ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. He's got hundreds of items in his catalog, too. Get over to his website. He's got a lot of great stuff over there, and he's always coming up with new stuff, too. This is one of the things that will really be helpful for you guys with 1975 Honda CR125s. It's the clamp that goes around your air filter. $20, man. What are you using, zip ties like a shoemaker? Come on. Get over there, spend $20, and get the right part, okay? Piss me off. Now, Sirius Studios, they've got some really trick off-road or off-track gear, really comfortable. Ooh, it's made of cotton. It feels so good. He's got hats and he's got shirts and hoodies and all sorts of stuff there. That's SiriusStudios.co. This week in motocross history, we just had one of the best ones we've ever had with Terry Good as our guest talking about this bike right here. Of course, the Marty Tripes RC250 that was claimed. Where have we got now? Now we've got some, you know what? We've got Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities. I've got two spaces coming up, a major space and a minor one up above. They're not as expensive as you think. Get a hold of me, or I'm going to be starting to call around, and I'll get those spaces filled up really quickly. So if you have a business and you want to pay a couple of $100, $300, $400 a month tops, and reach 1 million people in 90 days, don't make me yell. Call me, and I'll get a package together for you, and we'll do something here on the show, okay?
Breathe, Joe.
Got an event coming up on April 5th and 6th. I have to make it bigger because I'm old and blind. That happens at Burroughs Ranch, 4160 County Road in beautiful Chrome, California. It appears to be a 2-day event. There's cross-country trials. There's a gate fee. Kids under 12 ride free. Get over to the Burroughs Ranch website or go to the Northwest Facebook page, or ARMA page for the West, ARMA West. All right? Still angry. Not really. Just kidding. What else we got going on here? I know there's some more events coming up. Oh, there's this one. It's another one. Why don't they make the print smaller?
That is pretty small, huh?
It is. Vintage motorcycle racing coming up at the, it's a grass track event and cross country too. This is also on April 12th for you guys who are out there on the East Coast. This is at Shady Acres MX and cross country. That is in Friendsville, Maryland. Friendsville, Maryland. It is an ARMA event. It is a one-day event, by the way it looks, April 12th, 2025. Okay? And don't forget, I did say something about the SoCal MX event, and this one here it is. That's happening on April 12th. And we've got the CZ, the Falter race. I'm going to be able to make this for at least one day. And I think at this point, because I'm not going to New Jersey during that time, I will be able to be there for 2 days, probably Saturday and Sunday. I don't know. I'm going to have to see how Susie's leg is doing. She will not be joining me, so we'll find out. But April 25th, 26th, and 27th, that amazing CZ World Championship takes place up here in Northern California. What if you're in Virginia? Well, you know what you're going to do on April 26th? You're going to go over to County Line Church Road in Ruther Glen, Virginia. You're going to go over to George Ackerman's mini bike show and swap. Free food, a lot of fun. Got the mini bike barn. He's got the Moto barn. All you could ask for, all on one piece of rather historic property, too. George has found over the years Indian arrowheads, bullets from the Civil War, all kinds of things. He's got a nice little collection of stuff like that, too, if you want to remember when the North slaughtered the South. It's a great time to be alive. Anyway, that's what's happening at Vintage Motocross Q&A. That wraps it up for this week. Gina, you want, don't scratch me. Wait, just, what you got?
What do you call them?
I guess I did. Come on. Oh my God. Fat ass. Okay. All right. That wraps it up for Vintage Motocross Q&A. We will see you next time. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Tell your friends about it. Think about becoming a sponsor. We'll see you next time.